Hi, and welcome back to the Citizen channel. Hope you're all staying safe and well. We'll continue our look at the Benjamin Mendy, Mr. Matturie trial, going on at Chester Crown Court. And we've had a 2-day break. No explanation as to why, or not one I've found so far, but we're going to go on to day 21, which is Friday, the 23rd of September 2022. Just to re-inform you, Mr. Mendy, 28, is accused of 7 counts of rape against 4 women, 1 count of attempted rape and 1 count of sexual assault. The offence is alleged to have taken place at his Cheshire home between October 2018 and August 2021, related to 7 women in total. Mr. Matturie is co-defendant from Eccles. Salford is accused of 6 counts of rape and 3 counts of sexual assault relating to 7 women. Judge Stephen Everett resides at Chester Crown Court, and that again, thanks to the Manchester Evening News timeline. And please, if you are new to the channel, all things City, all the good, of course, and the more serious stuff like this, please subscribe, push that bell notification. All these vlogs are coming out, very interesting court case. It's carrying on. A lot of people, a lot of interest like myself in this. And please, if you can, just give us a little thumbs up, guys, just to, help makes an old City fan very happy. It's nice to get comments, which are plenty of comments on this, but it's nice to get a little thumbs up as well if you can do that for me. Right, yes, we're back in court. Thanks again to the Manchester Evening News timeline from the court. 10:58 a.m. Sarah Holt, prosecuting, is reading out a statement from Woman 9's friend who was with her on the evening she was allegedly raped and sexually assaulted by Mr. Matturie. She says she and Woman 9 went to Mr. Matturie's apartment after he invited them round for drinks and balloons. The woman describes Mr. Matturie as an acquaintance at the time. The 2 girls got a taxi to the address where they were greeted by Mr. Matturie and 2 other men, the jury is told. The woman says that after arriving at the apartment, the group played the card game Uno, and Mr. Matturie made up a rule that whoever lost had to take a shot. She says Woman 9 was not drinking but took 1 shot and seemed pissed off about having to do so. Woman 9 then announced she was going for a nap and left the room, and was followed by one of Mr. Matturie's friends, the jury hears. The witness says Woman 9 told her to message when she was ready to leave. The woman later sent a message to Woman 9 saying she wanted to go but did not receive a response. She presumed her friend had left the address, so decided to go herself, she says. The following day, the woman says she noticed she had received a Snapchat message from Woman 9 which read, "Yo, OMG." She says Woman 9 later asked her, "Why would you leave me?" Woman 9 is then alleged to have told her friend that Mr. Matturie pretended to be another man and that she had sex with him while believing he was the other man. The jury is now being played a video of a police interview conducted by Woman 10, who accused Mr. Mendy of raping her twice on the same date in August of last year. The woman also accuses Mr. Matturie of raping her twice on the same date. Woman 10 is telling police officers that she received a message from Mr. Matturie in the early hours of the morning asking her to meet him at a nightclub in the Manchester city centre. He told me to ask for Mendy at the door, she says. She says she arrived at the club at about 3:50 a.m. and gave Mr. Mendy's name, but a doorman told her she could not enter as the venue was closed. The woman says she waited outside the venue and noticed a big entourage in the nightclub's waiting room. This was because they were with Jack Grealish, she says. There were a few girls around him and they were taking pictures and videos on their phones. The club didn't like that and Saha and his entourage didn't like it. There was a car waiting for Jack to get in, says Woman 10. She says Mr. Mendy and Mr. Matturie left the club and she joined Mr. Matturie in a taxi to Mr. Mendy's house in Prestbury, Cheshire. While in the taxi, she says Mr. Matturie informed her they were heading to a private party and that her phone would be taken off her as no photographs were allowed. We had no clue our phones were being taken off us before we got in the car, she adds. If I had known before, I would not have got into the car. Upon arriving at Mr. Mendy's home, she says a man confiscated her phone. I was very far from home, so there was no way I was getting home, so we handed our phones over, she tells the officer. The woman tells the officer that she was then led into the lounge of Mr. Mendy's home. It seemed like there was a birthday party that had gone on beforehand, Woman 10 adds. The woman says 2 girls were sitting on a couch next to Mr. Mendy's Manchester City teammate, Jack Grealish, while a chef was cooking food. The woman claims that Mr. Grealish had been demanding vodka, so Mr. Matturie went to the shop with another woman, Woman 11. Woman 11 who accuses Mr. Matturie of raping her on the same date. After returning from the shop, woman 10 says Mr. Matturie told us to take woman 11 to the toilet. She was in hysterics, the witness tells the officer. I didn't know what was wrong with her at first. She seemed really shaken up. Woman 10 says woman 11 told her she had fallen asleep and woken up with Mr. Matturie inside of her. Later that evening, woman 10 says Mr. Matturie asked her what was wrong with woman 11. She claims Mr. Matturie told her they had kissed in the car and were doing things. While at the party, woman 10 says she met Benjamin Mendy for the first time. He asked me my name and I told him, she says. The woman says Mr. Mendy was looking me up and down like he would check someone out. She alleges that Mr. Mendy then showed her to the bathroom before leading her to an office with a secure lock on the door and telling her, come in here. I didn't have a clue what was going on at this point, she says. Woman 10 says that she and Mr. Mendy sat on a couch in the office and began talking. He almost turned me over into position when he was going to have sex with me, she tells the officer. I didn't know what to do. The guy was like 6 foot something. She adds, I'm in a position where my chest is down and my legs are behind me, and he just puts it in. The woman says she did not talk about sex with Mr. Mendy before or after the alleged rape. There was nothing of the sort to suggest we were going to engage in the sort, she adds. I didn't say yes or no. I was in no fit state to say yes or no because I had been drinking all night. She tells the officer she had also taken cocaine at her flat earlier in the evening. Woman 10 says Mr. Mendy asked her whether she was on the pill and she told him she was not. That's when I knew I wanted to stop. I did not want it to happen anymore, she explains to the officer. I did not want it to happen in the first place. She continues, he finished when he wanted to, as if it was on his own terms. The woman says the incident lasted for about 15 to 20 minutes, but felt as though it went on for a very long time. The witness continues, during sex he was telling me, you have a perfect body. This is not the body of a 17-year-old. This is not the arse of a 17-year-old. I want you every day. I just thought, what the fuck? That was the only conversation that was going on. He was just talking to me. A woman says Mr. Mendy then ejaculated inside her. Woman says she believes the door to the office was only locked from the inside and that there were awards, trophies and shirts inside the room. She says that after the incident was over, she went to find woman 11. She told me she had had sex with Jack, she tells the officer. I knew this after I was with Ben. At some point in the night, she had gone into bed with Ben as well. Woman 10 is now being asked about the moment Mr. Matturie is alleged to have raped her. He says she and Mr. Matturie were watching a basketball documentary in Mr. Mendy's cinema room at about 6 a.m. that same morning. The woman says she and Mr. Matturie were on the sofa bed and she felt quite sleepy at the time. About 5 minutes into the film, the woman says Mr. Matturie pulled her to the side and put his penis inside me. The witness says the incident lasted for 5 to 7 minutes. There was no conversation beforehand, she says. We were talking about this NBA documentary. Afterwards, the woman says she felt agitated and did not want to be there anymore. Describing the thought process, she said, do I get up yet? Is it too soon to leave? The woman says that she then told Mr. Matturie she was going to the toilets and went to sit in the lounge. Later that morning, she says she and Mr. Matturie got a taxi from Mr. Mendy's home to his apartment in Chapel Street, Salford. Woman says that Mr. Matturie showed her around the apartment, but she wanted to go home. She tells the police officer we were on a bed and he was unzipping my skirt. He put me into a position where my chest was down in that doggy style again. His full body weight was on top of me. He was using me as a rest for his chest. He had sex with me again. It was like a routine. There was no conversation beforehand to suggest we were going to have sex. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I didn't say anything. The woman says she left the apartment straight away and phoned her ex-boyfriend that same day to tell him what had happened. At 1:01 p.m. the trial adjourned for lunch, and at 2:47 p.m. the trial resumed, with the jury being played footage of another police interview involving woman 10. She tells a police officer she did not know who was going to at the party at Mr. Mendy's house beforehand. After getting in the taxi outside the nightclub in Manchester city centre, she says she was told they were following a car which Jack Grealish and his driver were in. They were going to the party too, she says. The officer asked someone what she knew about the England international at the time. I just knew he had recently moved to Manchester, she says. I had only heard bits and bobs here and there that he played football and stuff. I knew no personal details about him, just that he was in Manchester. The officer asked if she knows how high profile Mr. Grealish was. I knew he was quite sought after, she replies, just because of the way he was treated inside the club. I thought he must be quite high profile. Prior to allegedly being raped by Mr. Mendy, the woman says she had drunk around a full glass of champagne, around 3 glasses of vodka. She describes the conversation she later had with Mr. Mendy as an icebreaker. He was asking my name, she says. He was quite forward. He was checking me out and talking about my body. He was just looking at it, talking about my bum, basically, just saying that my figure was nice. Following the conversation, woman says she went to the bathroom. As she left the bathroom, she alleges that Mr. Mendy gestured towards an office and told her to come in here. He called me in there, she says. I didn't know if he wanted to just chat and have privacy. She adds, it's not like we had gone in there to do anything. The witness says she and Mr. Mendy then went into the room, which she describes as a mess. Once inside the room, the woman says Mr. Mendy complimented her eyes and face. We did not talk about sex, she says. I literally met him like 2 or 3 minutes before. There was no way I was going to do that. She tells the officer that Mr. Mendy put her into a doggy position before pulling down his boxers and thrusting in and out. I had not walked in there thinking I want to have sex with you, she adds. The officer asks the woman why she did not tell Mr. Mendy to stop. I think I was frightened what he was going to say, she answers. I didn't want him to say anything to me, like get defensive. She says she feared Mr. Mendy might have flipped out. I had not got my phone, she adds. There wasn't any way I could leave the party or get my phone. It was the first time anything like that had happened to me. I was confused, so I said nothing at all. I was very conflicted in my head. I didn't know how it had happened so quickly as well, from being in the lounge to this happening. I just could not work out in my head. It was just baffling. About 10 to 15 minutes after allegedly being raped by Mr. Mendy, the woman says Mr. Matturie invited her to watch a film with him in the cinema room. She tells the officer that Mr. Matturie then put a blanket over them both. As she was lying in a sideways position watching the film, she says Mr. Matturie pulled down his pants. He's done that under the blanket and pulled my underwear to the side and got his penis out and had sex with me, she alleges. The woman says she did not tell Mr. Matturie no or to stop at any point. At 3:47 p.m, the jury finished hearing evidence for the day, and the trial's been adjourned out until Monday, the 26th of September, when jurors will be playing a video recording of Woman 10 being cross-examined by Mr. Mendy and Mr. Matturie's defence lawyers. Please join me back on Monday for that. As I say, I'm not aware of what the problem was for Wednesday and Thursday, when it was actually not showing in court on Wednesday, but it was actually showing as a case on Thursday. So why the case didn't go forward, I'm not too sure. Anyway, leave us your comments, guys. Let me know what you're thinking on this. Much appreciated. And thanks for your time. I hope to see you all again soon. Until we do, please stay safe, everyone. Bye for now.